The morning sun cast long shadows across the suburban streets of Millbrook, Ohio, as 22-year-old Emma Martinez adjusted her cap and gown for the third time in the bathroom mirror. The black polyester felt heavy on her shoulders, weighed down not just by the humid May air seeping through the open window, but by the anticipation of a day she'd dreamed about since starting college 4 years ago. "Emma, honey, we need to leave in 10 minutes, her mother called from downstairs, her voice carrying that particular mix of excitement and anxiety that had become familiar over the past week. Emma smoothed down her dark hair one final time and grabbed her phone from the nightstand. 17 missed calls from her best friend Sarah, 12 text messages from various relatives, and 3 voicemails from her academic advisor. But nothing from the one person whose voice she'd been hoping to hear all morning. She scrolled through her contacts until she found Grandma Rose and pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times before going to voicemail. Emma's heart sank a little deeper with each unanswered ring. "Hi, Grandma, it's Emma," she said after the beep, trying to keep her voice light despite the disappointment creeping in. "I'm about to head to graduation. I was hoping you might call to wish me luck. I know you've been having some tough days lately, but I thought maybe—" She paused, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Anyway, I love you. I'll call you tonight and tell you all about it." Downstairs, the kitchen buzzed with activity. Her mother, Carmen, was packing what looked like enough snacks to feed the entire graduating class, while her father, Miguel, sat at the kitchen table reviewing the campus map for the 5th time, his reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. "Did you reach Grandma Rose?" Carmen asked without looking up from the cooler she was organizing. Emma shook her head, slipping her phone into her small purse. "Straight to voicemail. She's probably still sleeping." Carmen's hands stilled for a moment. At 63, Emma's grandmother had been showing signs of memory loss for the past 2 years. Some days she was sharp as ever, regaling the family with stories from her youth in Puerto Rico or offering unsolicited but surprisingly relevant advice about life. Other days, she seemed lost in a fog, forgetting names, dates, and sometimes even where she was. "She's been having more bad days lately," Carmen said gently, closing the cooler and turning to face her daughter. "Yesterday she called me Maria 3 times. That's your Aunt Maria, you know, who moved to California 15 years ago." Miguel looked up from his map. "Maybe it's better this way, Mija. The ceremony is long and all those people. It might be overwhelming for her." Emma knew her parents were trying to protect her feelings, but their words only made the ache in her chest worse. Grandma Rose had been her biggest supporter throughout college, always asking about her classes, her professors, her plans for the future. She'd been the one to encourage Emma to major in social work, saying the world needed more people who cared about helping others. "She promised she'd be there," Emma said quietly. "Last Christmas, when I told her the date, she wrote it down in that little notebook she carries everywhere. She said she wouldn't miss it for the world." The drive to campus took longer than usual, with graduation traffic clogging the normally quiet streets around the university. Emma stared out the passenger window at the familiar landmarks, the coffee shop where she'd spent countless hours studying, the library where she'd met her study group, the student center where she'd had her first real job interview. "Look at all these people," Miguel marveled as they pulled into the parking lot. Families were streaming toward the ceremony venue, carrying flowers, balloons, and cameras. Children ran between the cars while parents called after them, and elderly grandparents moved slowly but determinedly toward the entrance. Emma spotted several of her classmates taking photos with their families, their faces glowing with pride and excitement. She forced a smile and waved when she recognized someone, but inside she felt a hollow space where her grandmother's presence should have been. The ceremony itself was everything Emma had imagined and more. The university president spoke. About resilience and hope, the valedictorian delivered a speech about embracing uncertainty, and one by one, Emma's classmates crossed the stage to receive their diplomas. When they called Emma Martinez, Bachelor of Social Work, magna cum laude, she walked across that stage with her head held high, but as she shook the dean's hand, her eyes automatically scanned the audience for a familiar face that wasn't there. After the ceremony, families gathered on the lawn for photos and celebrations. Emma's parents fussed over her, taking pictures from every angle, and her younger brother Carlos, who had driven up from Cincinnati, presented her with a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite. "I'm so proud of you, sis," he said, wrapping her in a bear hug. "You did it. We all did it," Emma replied, looking around at her family. "I couldn't have done this without you guys." But even as she smiled for the cameras and accepted congratulations from friends and professors, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She kept checking her phone, hoping for a missed call or text from Grandma Rose, but the screen remained frustratingly blank. As the afternoon wore on, families began to disperse. Emma's parents suggested going to her favorite restaurant to celebrate, but she found herself distracted, only half listening to their conversation about her job, prospects, and graduate school applications. "Are you okay, honey?" Carmen asked as they waited for their food to arrive. "You seem a little quiet." Emma looked up from her phone, where she'd been staring at Grandma Rose's contact information. "I'm fine. Just tired, I guess. It's been a big day." "It has been a big day," Miguel agreed, raising his water glass. "To Emma and to all the hard work that got her here." They clinked glasses, and Emma smiled, but part of her heart remained with the empty chair where her grandmother should have been sitting. Later that evening, back at her childhood home, Emma finally gathered the courage to call her grandmother again. This time the phone rang only once before a familiar voice answered. "Hola? Grandma Rose, it's Emma," she said, her voice immediately brightening. "How are you feeling?" "Oh, Emma, mi amor." Her grandmother's voice was clearer than it had been in weeks. "I'm doing well, thank you for asking. How was your day?" Emma's heart clenched. Her grandmother sounded so normal, so present, that for a moment she wondered if maybe she had simply forgotten about the graduation altogether, rather than being unable to process it due to her condition. It was my graduation day, Grandma," Emma said gently. "From college. Remember?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Emma could hear her grandmother's breathing. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, more confused. "Graduation? Oh, mi nieta, I'm sorry, I don't..." Another pause. "Was I supposed to be somewhere today?" Emma closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten. "It's okay, Grandma. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to call and tell you that I graduated. I got my degree in social work, just like we talked about." "Social work," her grandmother repeated, and Emma could hear the smile in her voice. "That's wonderful, Emma. You're going to help so many people. I'm so proud of you." "Thank you, Grandma. I love you. I love you too, mi amor. Always." After hanging up, Emma sat on her bed, still wearing her graduation dress, and allowed herself to feel the full weight of her disappointment. She'd known this day would come eventually, the day when her grandmother's memory would fail her in a way that truly mattered. But knowing it was coming didn't make it hurt any less. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How was the family dinner? Did your grandma make it after all?" Emma stared at the question for a long moment before typing back, "No, she didn't make it. I think she forgot." 3 days passed before Emma heard from her grandmother again. She'd been staying busy, celebrating with friends, starting to pack up her apartment, and beginning the process of transitioning from college student to graduate. The excitement of finishing school was still there, but it was tempered by a sadness she couldn't quite shake. On Wednesday afternoon, as Emma was sorting through 4 years' worth of textbooks and deciding what to keep and what to donate, her phone rang. Grandma Rose's name appeared on the screen, and Emma's heart immediately began to pound. Calls from her grandmother had become increasingly rare and unpredictable. Sometimes she was lucid and conversational. Other times she was confused about who she was talking to or what year it was. "Hi, Grandma," Emma answered, setting down the sociology textbook she'd been holding. "Emma, mi amor, how are you?" Her grandmother's voice sounded strong and clear, more like the woman Emma remembered from her childhood. "I'm good, Grandma. How are you feeling today?" "I'm feeling very good today. Thank you for asking." There was a pause, and Emma could hear what sounded like papers rustling in the background. "Emma, I have a question for you." "Of course. What is it?" "Did you enjoy my gift?" Emma blinked, confused. "Your gift?" "Yes, for your graduation." "Did you enjoy it?" Emma's mind raced. She hadn't received any gift from her grandmother, not a card, not a package, nothing. Her parents had picked up her mail while she was at school, and she'd checked with them multiple times to make sure nothing had been missed. There had been no gift. "Grandma, I didn't receive a gift from you," Emma said carefully, not wanting to upset her. "Are you sure you sent something?" "Oh, I didn't send anything, mi amor. I gave it to you at the ceremony." Emma's breath caught. "At the ceremony? But Grandma, you weren't at the ceremony?" The line went quiet for a moment, and Emma could hear her grandmother's breathing. When she spoke again, her voice carried a note of genuine surprise. "I wasn't there, but I remember being there. I remember seeing you walk across that stage." Her voice became uncertain. "I was so proud of you, Emma. You looked so beautiful in your cap and gown." Emma's heart broke a little more. Her grandmother was clearly having one of her confused episodes, creating memories that didn't exist. "Grandma, you weren't there. I looked for you. I really wanted you to be there, but you weren't." "But the gift," her grandmother said, sounding lost. "I gave you the gift, I'm sure I did." "What gift, Grandma? What did you think you gave me?" Another long pause. I don't remember exactly, but I know I gave you something special, something important." Emma sat down on her bed, feeling the familiar weight of her grandmother's condition. "It's okay, Grandma. Don't worry about it. The important thing is that you're thinking of me." "No, Emma, you don't understand." Her grandmother's voice became more insistent. "I gave you a gift. I know I did. Maybe you haven't found it yet. Grandma, I think you might be thinking of someone else's graduation, or maybe you're remembering something from a long time ago. It's okay to be confused sometimes." "I'm not confused." The sharpness in her grandmother's voice was startling. "I gave you a gift for your graduation, and I want to know if you enjoyed it." Emma didn't know how to respond. Her grandmother sounded so certain, so convinced that she had been at the graduation and had given Emma something. It was heartbreaking to hear her insist on something that simply hadn't happened. "Okay, Grandma," Emma said gently. "If you say you gave me a gift, then I believe you. Can you tell me more about it? Maybe that will help me understand." "It was," her grandmother's voice faltered, "it was something special, something that would mean a lot to you, something that would help you remember." "Remember what?" "Remember who you are. Remember where you come from. Remember how much you are loved." Despite her confusion and sadness, Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at her grandmother's words. Even in her confused state, Grandma Rose was trying to express her love and support. "I know how much I'm loved, Grandma," Emma said softly. "I know you love me, even if you couldn't be at the graduation." "But I was there," her grandmother insisted. "And I gave you the gift. Check your things, Emma. Check carefully, you'll find it." After they hung up, Emma sat in her apartment staring at the boxes of her belongings. She knew her grandmother was confused, but something about the conversation bothered her. The certainty in her grandmother's voice, the insistence that she had been at the graduation, it was different from her usual confused episodes. Emma spent the next hour going through everything she owned, looking for any sign of a gift from her grandmother. She checked her purse, her graduation materials, her car, even her laundry. Nothing. That evening, she called her mother. "Mom, did Grandma Rose say anything to you about sending me a graduation gift?" Carmen was quiet for a moment. "No, honey. Why?" Emma explained the conversation, and her mother sighed deeply. "She's been having more episodes like this lately," Carmen said. "Last week she insisted she had made dinner for your grandfather, and she was upset when he didn't come home. We had to remind her that he passed away 3 years ago. But this felt different, Mom. She was so specific about the gift, and she seemed so sure she had been at the graduation. Honey, You know how her mind works now. Sometimes she creates memories that feel real to her. It's part of the disease. Emma knew her mother was right, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her grandmother had been so insistent, so detailed in her questioning about whether Emma had enjoyed the gift. It didn't feel like her usual confused ramblings. The next morning, Emma decided to visit her grandmother in person. Grandma Rose lived in a small assisted living facility about 20 minutes from Emma's parents' house. The building was modern and clean, with a garden courtyard and a friendly staff, but it still felt institutional in a way that made Emma's heart ache every time she visited. She found her grandmother in the common room, sitting by the window with a cup of tea and a crossword puzzle. When she saw Emma, her face lit up with genuine recognition and joy. "Emma, mi amor, what a wonderful surprise!" Emma hugged her grandmother, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume mixed with the faint medicinal smell of the facility. "Hi, Grandma. I thought I'd come visit." "Sit, sit," her grandmother said, patting the chair next to her. "Tell me everything. How is school going?" Emma's heart sank. Her grandmother had forgotten about the graduation again. "School is finished, Grandma. I graduated last Sunday, remember? We talked about it yesterday." Her grandmother's expression grew confused. "Graduated? But you're still in college." "I finished college, Grandma. I got my degree in social work." "Social work," her grandmother repeated, and Emma saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Yes, that's right. You're going to help people." She paused, studying Emma's face. "You graduated?" "Yes, last Sunday." "Was it a beautiful ceremony?" Emma hesitated. "Yes, it was. I'm so proud of you, Emma. I wish I could have been there." "I wish you could have been there too, Grandma." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the other residents and visitors in the common room. Emma noticed that her grandmother kept glancing at her, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't quite find the words. "Grandma," Emma said finally, "yesterday you asked me if I enjoyed your gift. Do you remember that?" Her grandmother's eyes sharpened, and she looked directly at Emma. "Yes, I remember. But I didn't receive a gift from you. I looked everywhere, but there wasn't anything." Her grandmother frowned. "That's not right. I gave you a gift, I'm sure of it." "What kind of gift, Grandma?" "Something special, something that would help you understand." She paused, looking frustrated. "I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know I gave it to you." Emma reached over and took her grandmother's hand. "It's okay if you can't remember. Maybe you're thinking of a different time, or maybe you wanted to give me a gift, but couldn't. That's okay." "No," her grandmother said firmly. "I gave you a gift. At your graduation. I was there." "Grandma, you weren't—" "I was there, Emma. Maybe not in the way you think, but I was there. And I gave you something important." Emma looked into her grandmother's eyes and saw something that made her pause. There was a clarity there, a certainty that seemed different from her usual confusion. It was almost as if she was trying to tell Emma something important, but couldn't find the right words. "What are you trying to tell me, Grandma?" Her grandmother squeezed Emma's hand. "Look closer, mi amor. Look with your heart, not just your eyes." Emma left the assisted living facility more confused than ever. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "Look with your heart, not just your eyes." It was the kind of thing Grandma Rose used to say when Emma was younger and facing a difficult problem, advice that had always seemed wise, but cryptic. That evening, Emma found herself back in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by the remnants of her college life. Her parents had been patient about her gradual move back home while she searched for her first real job, but she could sense their gentle expectation that she would soon be ready to fully transition to adult independence. She was folding her graduation dress when she noticed something odd. The dress felt heavier than she remembered, as if there was something in one of the pockets, but the dress didn't have pockets. It was a simple A-line dress her mother had helped her pick out specifically for the ceremony. Emma examined the dress more carefully and found a small slit in the lining near the hem. It was so well hidden and expertly sewn that she had never noticed it before. Her heart began to race as she worked her fingers into the opening and felt something small and hard inside. With careful movements, she extracted a small object wrapped in tissue paper. Her hands trembled as she unwrapped it, revealing a delicate silver locket she had never seen before. The locket was old, with intricate engravings around the edges and a small dent on one side that spoke of decades of wear. Emma opened the locket and gasped. Inside was a tiny photograph of a young woman who looked remarkably like Emma herself, standing in front of what appeared to be a school building. The photograph was black and white and clearly old, but the resemblance was unmistakable. On the opposite side of the locket, in tiny, careful handwriting, were the words, "Para Emma, con todo mi amor, siempre orgullosa, Abuela Rosa." Emma's hands shook as she read the inscription. "For Emma, with all my love, always proud, Grandma Rosa." This was her grandmother's handwriting, but how had the locket gotten into her dress? And who was the woman in the photograph? She immediately called her mother, her voice breathless with excitement and confusion. "Mom, I found something. In my graduation dress, a locket from Grandma Rose." "What? Emma, that's impossible. She didn't..." "No, Mom, I have it in my hands. It's real. There's a photograph inside and an inscription in Spanish. She wrote it for me." Carmen was quiet for a long moment. "Bring it over, honey. Right now." Emma drove to her parents' house in record time, clutching the locket in her palm. She found her parents waiting in the living room, and her mother's face went pale when she saw the locket. "Where did you say you found this?" Carmen asked, taking the locket with reverent hands. "It was sewn into the lining of my graduation dress, hidden in a secret pocket I never knew existed." Miguel leaned over his wife's shoulder to examine the locket. "This is beautiful work," he said, running his finger over the engravings. "Very old, very well made." Carmen opened the locket and stared at the photograph inside. "Dios mío," she whispered. "Who is it, Mom? She looks so much like me." Carmen's eyes filled with tears. "This is your great-grandmother, Elena, your grandmother's mother. She died when your grandmother was very young, but she was a teacher in Puerto Rico. This must be one of the only photographs that exists of her." Emma felt her knees go weak. "But how did it get in my dress? And when?" "I have no idea," Carmen said, but her voice carried a note of uncertainty that made Emma look at her more closely. "Mom, do you know something you're not telling me?" Carmen exchanged a look with Miguel before sighing deeply. "Last week, when you were at your friend's house, your grandmother called and asked if she could come over. She said she had something she needed to do for your graduation. She seemed different that day, more focused than she had been in months. And you didn't tell me? She asked us not to. She said it was a surprise and she wanted to handle it herself. She was here for about an hour and then she asked to be taken back to the facility. She seemed very satisfied about something, but she wouldn't tell us what she had done." Emma stared at her parents in disbelief. "So she really did give me a gift." She wasn't confused at all. "But how did she get it into your dress without you knowing?" Miguel asked. Emma thought back to the day of graduation. "I hung the dress in the closet the night before. It was hanging there all morning while I was getting ready. She could have..." Emma paused, working through the timeline. "Wait, what time was she here?" "Early morning," Carmen said. "Around 7 o'clock. She said she wanted to finish before you woke up." Emma's mind raced. That would have been while she was still sleeping and while her parents were getting ready for the day. Grandma Rose could have easily slipped into Emma's room and sewn the locket into the dress without anyone noticing. But how did she know how to sew it so perfectly? And how did she know the dress would be hanging there? Carmen smiled through her tears. "Your grandmother was a seamstress before she married your grandfather. She could sew anything. And she knew you always hung your important clothes in that closet. She helped you organize it when you were in high school." Emma felt a surge of emotion so strong it nearly knocked her over. Her grandmother, despite her failing memory, had planned and executed a perfect surprise. She had remembered what mattered most: Emma's graduation, her need for something meaningful, her connection to her family history. "She was there," Emma said softly. "Not in person, but she was there, with me. She was always there, Carmen said, reaching over to squeeze Emma's hand. Even when her mind isn't clear, her love for you is always clear. Emma held the locket up to the light, studying the photograph of her great-grandmother. Elena had the same dark eyes, the same strong jaw, the same determined expression that Emma saw when she looked in the mirror. "Tell me about her," Emma said. "About Elena." Carmen settled back in her chair, the locket still in her hands. "Your great-grandmother was an extraordinary woman. She was one of the first women in her town to become a teacher, and she dedicated her life to educating children who might not otherwise have had the opportunity to learn. She believed that education was the key to breaking cycles of poverty and creating a better future." "That sounds familiar," Emma said with a smile. "Your grandmother always said that Elena's spirit lived on in our family. She saw it in your mother's work as a nurse, and she sees it in your choice to become a social worker. She always said you had Elena's heart, the desire to help others and make the world a better place." Emma felt tears streaming down her cheeks. She remembered all of this, even when she forgets what day it is. "Love doesn't live in the same part of the brain as memory," Miguel said gently. "Your grandmother's love for you is deeper than any disease could reach." That night, Emma called the assisted living facility and asked to speak with her grandmother. The nurse on duty explained that Grandma Rose was already asleep, but that she could take a message. "Just tell her that Emma called and that I found the gift," Emma said. "Tell her I said thank you and that I understand now." "I'll make sure she gets the message," the nurse promised. Emma hung up and sat in her room, holding the locket and staring at the photograph of her great-grandmother. She thought about the chain of love that connected her to this woman she had never met, Elena, who had dedicated her life to education, Grandma Rose, who had encouraged Emma to pursue her dreams, and now Emma herself, about to begin her own career helping others. She carefully fastened the locket around her neck, feeling the weight of it against her chest. It was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was a tangible connection to her history, her family, and her purpose. The next morning, Emma called her grandmother again, and this time she was able to reach her directly. "Emma, mi amor, how are you?" Her grandmother's voice was bright and clear. "I'm wonderful, Grandma. I found your gift." "You did? Oh, I'm so happy. Did you enjoy it?" "I loved it, Grandma. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever received. Thank you for giving me Elena's locket." "You're welcome, mi amor. I knew you would understand its meaning." "I do understand. I understand that you were there with me at graduation and that you'll always be with me." "Always," her grandmother said firmly. "And Elena is with you too. Her spirit, her strength, her love, it's all part of who you are." Emma touched the locket at her throat. "I can feel it, Grandma. I can feel her with me." "Good. That's exactly what I hoped for." "Grandma, how did you remember to do this? How did you plan it so perfectly when you have so many days when you can't remember things?" Her grandmother was quiet for a moment. "Some things are too important to forget, Emma. Your graduation, your future, your need to know where you come from. These things live in a place in my heart that the disease can't touch. I may forget what I had for breakfast, but I will never forget how much I love you." Emma felt tears streaming down her face again. "I love you too, Grandma, so much." "I know you do, mi amor, and now you have Elena's love with you too. Wear the locket with pride, and remember that you come from a long line of strong women who changed the world by caring for others." 6 months later, Emma stood outside the Oak Grove Community Center, adjusting the locket at her throat as she prepared for her first day at her new job. She had been hired as a family counselor, working with children and families in crisis, exactly the kind of work she had dreamed of doing since she was a teenager. The locket had become her daily talisman, a reminder of her purpose and her connection to the strong women who had come before her. She had researched Elena's life and discovered that her great-grandmother had not only been a teacher, but had also worked to establish the first community center in her town in Puerto Rico, providing services for families in need. "It's like she's guiding me," Emma had told her mother just a few days earlier. "Every time I face a difficult situation at work, I touch the locket, and I feel this strength that doesn't come from me alone." Carmen had smiled and nodded. "That's exactly what your grandmother hoped would happen." Emma's phone buzzed with a text from her supervisor. "Looking forward to having you on the team. Your first client is here whenever you're ready." Emma took a deep breath, touched the locket one more time, and walked into the building. The community center was bright and welcoming, with children's artwork on the walls and comfortable seating areas throughout the lobby. She could hear laughter and conversation coming from various rooms, and she felt a surge of excitement about being part of this environment. Her supervisor, Maria Santos, greeted her with a warm smile. "Emma, welcome to Oak Grove. Are you ready to change some lives?" "I hope so," Emma replied, feeling the familiar flutter of nerves mixed with anticipation. "Your first client is Mrs. Patterson and her son Jake. They've been struggling since her husband's deployment overseas. Jake is having difficulty at school, and Mrs. Patterson is feeling overwhelmed managing everything on her own." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This was what she had trained for, what she had dreamed of, but it was also terrifying to know that her family was counting on her to help them navigate their crisis. As she walked to her new office, Emma thought about all the people who had brought her to this moment. Her parents, who had supported her through college and encouraged her to follow her passion. Her professors, who had challenged her to think critically about social issues and solutions. Her friends, who had celebrated her successes and helped her through her failures. And Grandma Rose, who had seen something in Emma that Emma was only beginning to see in herself. The session with Mrs. Patterson and Jake went better than Emma had dared to hope. The 8-year-old boy was initially shy and withdrawn, but when Emma mentioned that she had family members who had served in the military, he began to open up about his fears and anger about his father's absence. "Sometimes I get really mad," Jake admitted, playing with a toy car as he spoke. "And then I feel bad because I know Dad is helping people, but I just want him to come home." Emma felt her heart ache for this little boy who was trying to be brave while dealing with emotions too big for his young mind to fully process. She touched the locket unconsciously and felt a surge of clarity about how to help him. "It's okay to feel mad and sad at the same time," she told him. "Those feelings don't make you a bad person, and they don't mean you don't love your dad. They just mean you're human." Mrs. Patterson, who had been tense throughout the session, began to relax as she watched her son respond to Emma's gentle guidance. By the end of the hour, Jake was laughing and making plans for ways to stay connected with his father while he was deployed. "Thank you," Mrs. Patterson said as they prepared to leave. "I haven't seen him smile like that in weeks." After they left, Emma sat in her office, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and purpose. She had helped a family take a step toward healing, and it felt like the most important work she had ever done. Her phone rang, and she was surprised to see her mother's name on the screen. "Hi, Mom. How's your day going?" "It's going well, honey. I'm actually calling because I just got off the phone with the facility. Your grandmother had a really good day today, and she asked if she could call you." Emma's heart lifted. "Of course. Is she still up for talking?" "She is. She's been talking about you all day, actually. She seems very proud of something, but she won't tell us what it is." Emma laughed. "I'll call her right now." "Oh, and Emma, she's been asking about your job. She seems to remember that you started today." Emma felt a familiar warmth spread through her chest. "She remembers? She remembers the important things," Carmen said softly. Emma called her grandmother immediately, and the conversation that followed was one of the clearest and most meaningful they had shared in months. "Emma, mi amor, how was your first day helping families?" "It was wonderful, Grandma. Challenging but wonderful. I worked with a mother and her little boy who were struggling with some difficult emotions. And you helped them." "I think so. I hope so. I know you did. You have the gift, Emma. You have Elena's gift for seeing what people need and knowing how to help them find it." Emma touched the locket at her throat. "I felt her with me today, Grandma. When I was working with that little boy, I felt this strength and wisdom that didn't come from me alone. That's exactly right, mi amor. Elena's spirit is working through you, just like it worked through me when I was younger, and just like it works through your mother in her nursing. Grandma, I want to ask you something. Of course. Do you remember giving me the locket? Do you remember sewing it into my graduation dress? There was a pause, and Emma could hear her grandmother's breathing. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful and clear. I remember the feeling of needing to do something important for you. I remember holding Elena's locket and knowing that it needed to be with you. I remember the satisfaction of completing a task that mattered more than anything else in the world. So you do remember. I remember the love, Emma. I remember the purpose, the details. They come and go, but the love is always there. Emma felt tears streaming down her cheeks. Thank you, Grandma, for the locket, for believing in me, for showing me that love is stronger than any disease or difficulty. Thank you for finding your gift, mi amor. Thank you for becoming the woman Elena and I always knew you could be. That evening, Emma sat in her apartment preparing for her second day of work. She had 3 more families to meet, each with their own challenges and needs. As she reviewed their files, she found herself thinking about the invisible threads that connected all their stories: loss, hope, resilience, love. She opened her laptop and began typing an email to her grandmother, something she had started doing after realizing that even if Grandma Rose couldn't always remember receiving them, the act of writing helped Emma process her own experiences and stay connected to her family's wisdom. Dear Grandma Rose, she wrote, today I started my career as a family counselor, and I kept thinking about something you told me years ago, that the most important gift we can give someone is the feeling that they are not alone. Today I gave that gift to a little boy who was missing his deployed father, and tonight I'm realizing that you gave that same gift to me at my graduation, even when I didn't know it at the time. Emma paused, touching the locket at her throat. Through her office window, she could see families walking together in the evening light, parents pushing strollers, children riding bikes, teenagers walking with friends, each of them carrying their own stories of struggle and triumph, each of them deserving of care and support. I understand now why you were so insistent that you had given me a gift, she continued typing. You weren't confused at all. You knew exactly what you were doing. You were passing down something that couldn't be wrapped or mailed or handed over in person. You were passing down our family's legacy of service, our commitment to helping others, and our understanding that love transcends time and memory. Emma saved the email to send in the morning and closed her laptop. She had learned something profound in the months since her graduation, that the most meaningful gifts aren't always the ones we expect, and that love finds ways to reach us, even when the people we care about can't always express it in conventional ways. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. How was the first day of your dream job? Emma smiled as she typed back. Perfect, challenging and scary, and exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Did you wear the locket? Every day, Emma replied. It's become part of who I am. As she prepared for bed, Emma thought about the conversation she'd had with Jake Patterson that afternoon. When she had asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, he had said, I want to help other kids who are sad like me. That's a beautiful goal, Emma had told him. And you know what? You're already helping other kids just by being brave enough to talk about your feelings. When you share your story, it helps other children feel less alone. Jake had looked up at her with wide eyes. Really? Really? Sometimes the most important work we do is just showing other people that they're not the only ones who feel scared or sad or confused. Now, hours later, Emma realized that she had been channeling Elena's wisdom through that conversation. The understanding that healing often begins with connection, and that we serve others best when we're willing to be vulnerable about our own struggles. The next morning, Emma arrived at work early and found a surprise waiting on her desk, a small potted plant with a note attached. Welcome to the Oak Grove family. From your colleagues. She smiled and placed the plant on her windowsill, next to a framed photo of her with her grandparents that she had brought from home. As she arranged her office space, she realized that she was creating an environment where families would feel safe and supported. Exactly the kind of space Elena had created in her community center in Puerto Rico, and the kind of space Grandma Rose had always provided for her family. Her first appointment was with the Rodriguez family, parents who were struggling to help their teenage daughter cope with anxiety and depression. As Emma reviewed their intake forms, she felt the familiar flutter of nerves mixed with determination. When the family arrived, Emma could immediately sense the tension between them. The parents looked exhausted and worried, while their daughter, Sophia, sat slumped in her chair with her arms crossed, clearly reluctant to be there. "I know this feels uncomfortable," Emma began, looking directly at Sophia. "Nobody really wants to be in family therapy. But I'm hoping we can work together to make things a little easier for everyone." Sophia glanced up, and Emma saw a flicker of surprise in her eyes, as if she hadn't expected to be addressed directly and honestly. "My parents think I'm broken," Sophia said quietly. "We don't think you're broken," her mother protested. "We just want to help you feel better." Emma held up a gentle hand. "Let's let Sophia finish her thought," she said. "Sophia, can you tell me more about what it feels like when your parents try to help?" For the next hour, Emma facilitated a conversation that was sometimes difficult and emotional, but also honest and productive. She watched the family begin to understand each other's perspectives, and she felt the deep satisfaction that came from witnessing human connection and healing. During her lunch break, Emma called her grandmother, something that had become part of her daily routine. "How are you today, Grandma?" "I'm having a good day, mi amor. Clear skies in my mind, as your grandfather used to say." Emma laughed. "That's a beautiful way to put it. Grandma, I want to tell you about my morning." She described her session with the Rodriguez family, and her grandmother listened intently, occasionally making small sounds of understanding and approval. "You're doing exactly what you were meant to do," Grandma Rose said when Emma finished. "Elena would be so proud to see how you're carrying on her work." "I can feel her guidance sometimes," Emma admitted. "Is that strange?" "Not strange at all, mi amor. The women in our family have always been connected across time. Our love and wisdom passes from generation to generation, like a river that never stops flowing." "I love that image," Emma said. "A river of love and wisdom. That's exactly what it is. And someday, when you have children or grandchildren of your own, you'll pass that river on to them." Emma spent the rest of her lunch break thinking about that conversation. She thought about the invisible network of support that surrounded her, not just her living family members, but the generations of strong women who had come before her, each one contributing to the person she had become. That afternoon, she worked with 2 more families, each session building her confidence and deepening her understanding of her role as a healer and supporter. By the end of the day, she felt exhausted but fulfilled, like she had participated in something much larger than herself. As she was packing up her office, her supervisor, Maria, knocked on her door. "How are you feeling after your second day?" "Grateful," Emma replied without hesitation. "Grateful to be here, grateful to do this work, grateful for all the people who helped me get here." Maria smiled. "That's the attitude that makes great counselors. But I also want you to remember to take care of yourself. This work can be emotionally demanding, and it's important to maintain your own well-being." "I understand," Emma said. "I have a good support system." "I'm glad to hear that. Family support is crucial in this field." As Emma drove home, she thought about Maria's words. She did have good support, her parents, her brother, her friends, her colleagues, but perhaps most importantly, she had the spiritual support of the women who had come before her, and the tangible reminder of that support in the locket she wore every day. That evening, Emma called her parents to tell them about her second day of work. Her father was particularly interested in hearing about the families she was helping, and her mother wanted to know how she was taking care of herself emotionally. "I feel strong," Emma told them. "Not just my own strength, but the strength of our whole family. It's like I'm carrying all of your love and support with me into every session." "That's exactly right," Carmen said. "And your grandmother's love, most of all." "Odi, speaking of Grandma, how is she doing today?" "She had a very good day," Miguel replied. "She was talking about you constantly. She seems to understand that you've started your career, and she's incredibly proud." "I'm going to visit her this weekend," Emma said. "I want to tell her in person about how the locket is helping me every day." "She'll love that," Carmen said. "She asks about you every time we visit." That night, Emma sat at her kitchen table and wrote in the journal she had started keeping since beginning her new job. She wanted to document not just her professional experiences, but also her personal growth and the ways her family's love continued to support her. "Day 2, she wrote, "I'm beginning to understand that being a counselor isn't just about having the right training or techniques. It's about being able to hold space for other people's pain and hope at the same time. It's about believing in people's capacity for healing, even when they can't believe in it themselves. And it's about remembering that we're all connected, that helping one family helps the whole community, and that the love we give comes back to us in ways we don't always expect." She paused and touched the locket at her throat. "Grandma Rose was right when she said she gave me a gift at graduation. She didn't just give me Elena's locket. She gave me the understanding that I'm part of something bigger than myself. She gave me the knowledge that love persists across time and memory, and that our family's commitment to service is what gives my life meaning and purpose." Emma closed her journal and prepared for bed, feeling deeply grateful for the unexpected ways her life had unfolded. Her grandmother's gift hadn't been what she expected, but it had been exactly what she needed, a tangible connection to her family's legacy and a daily reminder of the love that surrounded her. As she drifted off to sleep, Emma thought about the families she would meet tomorrow and the ways she might be able to help them find their own sources of strength and connection. She thought about Jake Patterson, learning to express his feelings about his father's deployment, and Sofia Rodriguez, beginning to believe that her parents loved her even when they didn't always understand her. And she thought about Grandma Rose, who had found a way to be present at Emma's graduation despite her failing memory, who had given her the most meaningful gift of her life, and who continued to love and support her from a place deeper than conscious thought. The locket around Emma's neck caught the moonlight streaming through her bedroom window, and for a moment, Emma could almost feel the presence of all the strong women who had shaped her life. Elena, Grandma Rose, her mother, and now herself, carrying the legacy forward into a new generation of service and love. Epilogue. 1 year later, Emma stood once again in her childhood bedroom, but this time she was helping her parents prepare for Grandma Rose's 85th birthday party. The family had decided to hold the celebration at the assisted living facility, inviting residents and staff to join in honoring a woman who had touched so many lives. Emma wore Elena's locket as she did every day, but today she had also brought something special, a photo album documenting her first year as a family counselor. She wanted to show her grandmother how the gift of the locket had inspired and guided her work. "Are you ready to go, honey?" Carmen called from downstairs. "Almost," Emma replied, taking one last look at herself in the mirror. Over the past year, she had grown into her role as a counselor, helping dozens of families navigate crises and find their strength. She had also grown into her role as the keeper of her family's legacy, understanding more deeply each day what it meant to be part of a chain of women dedicated to service. At the party, Grandma Rose was having one of her clearest days in months. She recognized everyone, remembered names and relationships, and seemed genuinely delighted by the celebration in her honor. "Emma, mi amor," she said when she saw her granddaughter, "you look so beautiful and so strong." "Thank you, Grandma. I brought something to show you." Emma sat beside her grandmother and opened the photo album. Page by page, she showed pictures from her work, families she had helped, colleagues she had worked with, community events she had participated in. "This is the Patterson family," Emma explained, pointing to a photo of Jake and his mother at a community picnic. "Remember I told you about Jake, the little boy whose father was deployed? He's doing so much better now. He started a support group for other military children at his school. Grandma Rose studied each photo carefully, asking questions and making comments that showed she understood the significance of Emma's work. "And this," Emma said, turning to the final page, "is a letter I received from Sofia Rodriguez, the teenage girl I told you about who was struggling with depression." She read aloud from the letter, "Dear Emma, I wanted you to know that I'm doing so much better now. I still have hard days, but I remember what you taught me about asking for help and believing in my own strength. I've decided I want to study psychology in college so I can help other teenagers the way you helped me. Thank you for seeing the best in me even when I couldn't see it myself." Grandma Rose's eyes filled with tears. "Elena would be so proud," she whispered. "She would be proud of all of us," Emma replied, squeezing her grandmother's hand. "You, me, Mom, and all the people we've been able to help because of the love and wisdom you passed down to us. The river keeps flowing," Grandma Rose said softly. "Yes," Emma agreed. "The river keeps flowing." As the party continued around them, Emma and her grandmother sat together in comfortable silence, watching the celebration and feeling the deep satisfaction that comes from a life well lived and a legacy secured. Emma touched the locket at her throat and felt the presence of Elena, the strength of Grandma Rose, and the promise of all the families she would help in the years to come. The gift her grandmother had given her at graduation had been so much more than a piece of jewelry. It had been a bridge across time, a connection to purpose, and a reminder that love finds ways to reach us exactly when we need it most, even when we don't know we need it at all. 3 years had passed since Emma's graduation, and the autumn leaves were beginning to turn golden outside the Oak Grove Community Center. Emma, now 25, had been promoted to senior family counselor and was training new staff members. The locket still hung around her neck every day, its silver surface now worn smooth from her habit of touching it during difficult moments with clients. On this particular Tuesday morning, Emma was reviewing the file of a new family when her colleague David knocked on her office door. "Emma, there's a situation I think you should handle personally," he said, his voice carrying the careful tone that meant a particularly sensitive case. "We have a grandmother who's been trying to get custody of her granddaughter. The girl's parents died in a car accident 6 months ago, and the grandmother is, well, she's showing early signs of dementia." Emma looked up from her paperwork, immediately interested. "What's the granddaughter's situation?" 15 years old, named Isabella. She's been in foster care while the court determines if the grandmother is capable of providing adequate care. The grandmother, Mrs. Chen, is 72 and insists she can take care of Isabella, but social services is concerned about her memory issues. Emma felt a familiar tightness in her chest. And Isabella? What does she want? That's the complicated part. She wants to live with her grandmother, but she's also terrified of being a burden. The grandmother is the only family she has left. Emma touched the locket at her throat, feeling the weight of Elena's legacy and remembering her own fears about Grandma Rose's declining memory. "I'll take the case." An hour later, Emma sat in her office across from Mrs. Chen and Isabella. The grandmother was small and elegant, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and hands that shook slightly as she held her purse. Isabella was tall for her age, with long black hair and eyes that seemed much older than her 15 years. "Mrs. Chen, Isabella, thank you for coming in today," Emma began gently. "I understand you're hoping to live together, but that there are some concerns about making that happen." Mrs. Chen straightened in her chair. "I raised 5 children, Miss Martinez. I think I can handle 1 granddaughter." "I know you love Isabella very much," Emma said, "but I also understand that you've been having some memory difficulties lately. Can you tell me about that?" "Sometimes I forget small things," Mrs. Chen admitted, her voice defensive. "Like where I put my keys or what day it is, but I never forget what's important. I never forget Isabella." Emma glanced at Isabella, who was staring at her hands folded in her lap. "Isabella, how do you feel about your grandmother's memory issues?" The teenager looked up, and Emma saw tears in her eyes. "Sometimes she forgets to eat dinner. or she asked me the same question 3 times. But she always remembers my birthday, and she always remembers the stories about my mom when she was little. She's all I have left." "I understand that must be scary," Emma said softly. "Both the memory issues and the idea of possibly being separated." "The social worker says Grandma might not be able to take care of me," Isabella said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I can take care of both of us. I'm not a little kid." Emma felt her heart break for this young girl who was trying to hold her small family together through sheer force of will. It reminded her so much of her own fears about Grandma Rose and her desire to protect and preserve their relationship despite the challenges of dementia. "Isabella, that's a lot of responsibility for someone your age," Emma said. "You shouldn't have to be the caretaker for your grandmother." "But I want to," Isabella said fiercely. "She took care of my mom, and my mom would want me to take care of her now." Mrs. Chen reached over and took her granddaughter's hand. "Isabella, you are not responsible for taking care of me. I am the adult, and it's my job to take care of you. But what if you forget how to cook? Or what if you get lost? Or what if—" "Isabella," Emma interrupted gently, "can I tell you about my grandmother?" For the next 20 minutes, Emma shared her own story. Grandma Rose's dementia, her fears about losing their connection, and the unexpected ways that love had found to bridge the gaps left by failing memory. She told them about the locket, about the graduation gift she never expected, and about learning that some kinds of love are stronger than any disease. "The point isn't that everything worked out perfectly," Emma explained. "My grandmother still has good days and bad days. Sometimes she doesn't remember my name, and sometimes she doesn't remember that I've graduated college. But the love between us has found ways to survive and even grow despite the challenges." Mrs. Chen had tears in her eyes. "You understand," she said simply. "I do understand. And I also understand that love alone isn't always enough to ensure safety and well-being. We need to create a support system that helps both of you thrive." Over the next hour, Emma worked with Mrs. Chen and Isabella to develop a comprehensive plan. They discussed daily living aids for Mrs. Chen, like pill organizers and calendar reminders. They talked about enlisting neighbors and friends to check in regularly. They explored options for adult day programs that would give Mrs. Chen social interaction and mental stimulation, while Isabella was at school. "What about when it gets worse?" Isabella asked, voicing the fear that had been underlying all their discussions. Emma looked directly at her. "Then we adjust the plan. We bring in more support. We make sure you both have what you need, even if what you need changes over time." "And if I can't take care of Isabella anymore?" Mrs. Chen asked quietly. "Then we make sure Isabella knows she's loved and supported, no matter where she lives," Emma said. "But Mrs. Chen, that day may be much further away than you think. Early dementia doesn't mean you can't be a wonderful grandmother and guardian. It just means we need to be thoughtful about creating safeguards." Indeed, after the session, Emma spent the rest of the afternoon working on a detailed report for the court, recommending that Isabella be placed with her grandmother under a carefully monitored support plan. She included resources for both of them, from memory care specialists to counseling services for teenagers dealing with grief and family illness. That evening, Emma called her own grandmother, something she still did most days despite the unpredictability of Grandma Rose's condition. "Hi, Grandma. It's Emma." "Emma!" Her grandmother's voice was bright and clear. "How are you, mi amor?" "I'm good, Grandma. I had an interesting day at work. I met a grandmother and granddaughter who reminded me a lot of us." "Tell me about them." Emma described the situation with Mrs. Chen, and Isabella and her grandmother listened intently. "You helped them stay together?" Grandma Rose asked when Emma finished. "I'm trying to. I recommended to the court that they be allowed to live together with additional support services." "That's good, Emma. That's very good. Families should be together when they love each other, even when it's complicated, especially when it's complicated. Love finds a way, mi amor. It always finds a way." 2 weeks later, Emma received word that the court had approved her recommendation. Mrs. Chen and Isabella would be able to live together, with regular check-ins from social services and access to the support network Emma had helped them establish. She called Isabella with the news, and the teenager burst into tears of relief and joy. "Thank you," Isabella whispered through her tears. "Thank you for understanding that we need each other." "You're welcome," Emma said. "And Isabella, remember that you can call me any time if you need support or if things get difficult. You're not alone in this." A month later, Emma was surprised to receive a package at her office. Inside was a hand-knitted scarf in beautiful autumn colors, along with a note written in careful handwriting. "Dear Emma, Isabella taught me how to write emails, but I wanted to write this by hand. Thank you for helping us stay together. I made this scarf for you because I wanted you to have something warm to wear when you're helping other families. Isabella says you have a special necklace that reminds you of your grandmother, and now you have something that reminds you of us too. We are doing well. Some days are harder than others, but we face them together. With love and gratitude, Mrs. Chen and Isabella." Emma held the scarf to her cheek, feeling the softness of the wool and the love that had been knitted into every stitch. She thought about the invisible threads that connected all families, all stories of love persisting through difficulty. That afternoon, she had a session with the Rodriguez family, who she had been working with for over a year now. Sophia, now a senior in high school, was preparing for college and had decided to major in social work. "I want to do what you do," Sophia told Emma during their session. "I want to help families who are struggling." "That's a beautiful goal," Emma replied, unconsciously touching her locket. "What made you decide on social work specifically?" "Watching how you helped our family," Sophia said simply. "You didn't just give us advice or tell us what to do. You helped us understand each other and find our own strength. I want to learn how to do that for other people." Emma felt a surge of pride and emotion. Here was another link in the chain, another young woman choosing to dedicate her life to helping others. "Have I ever told you about my great-grandmother Eleanor?" Emma asked. Sophia shook her head, and Emma spent the rest of their session sharing Eleanor's story, her work as a teacher in Puerto Rico, her dedication to helping families in need, and the way her legacy had been passed down through generations. "So helping people runs in your family," Sophia observed. "It does. And you know what I think? I think it's starting to run in your family too. When you become a social worker and help other families, you'll be passing on something important to the next generation." Sophia smiled, an expression of hope and determination that reminded Emma of herself at that age. That evening, Emma sat in her apartment, wearing Mrs. Chen's scarf and Elena's locket, thinking about the day's conversations. She thought about Isabella and Mrs. Chen, navigating the challenges of dementia together with love and support. She thought about Sophia, preparing to dedicate her life to helping others. She thought about all the families she had worked with over the past 3 years, and all the ways their stories had intertwined with her own. She opened her laptop and began writing in the journal she had kept since starting her career. "Today, I realized something important about the work we do as counselors. We don't just help individual families solve their problems. We help create a network of people who understand the value of love, support, and service to others. When we help one family heal, they go out into the world with that healing and pass it on to others. When we help a teenager like Sophia find her strength, she grows up to help other teenagers find theirs." Emma paused and touched both the locket and the soft wool of the scarf. Grandma Rose was right when she said that some gifts keep giving long after they're received. Elena's locket didn't just connect me to my family's past. It connected me to my purpose, which connects me to the families I serve, which connects them to their own capacity for healing and service. It's like a river, flowing from one generation to the next, carrying love and wisdom and the commitment to help others. She saved the journal entry and prepared for bed, feeling deeply grateful for the unexpected ways her life continued to unfold. Tomorrow, she would meet with new families, each carrying their own struggles and their own capacity for growth. She would wear Elena's locket, and Mrs. Chen's scarf, tangible reminders of the love and gratitude that motivated her work. As she drifted off to sleep, Emma thought about Grandma Rose, probably sleeping peacefully at the assisted living facility, and about Mrs. Chen and Isabella, hopefully settling into their new life together with confidence and support. She thought about Sophia, dreaming of her future career helping others, and about Elena, whose legacy continued to ripple outward through the generations. The locket around Emma's neck caught the moonlight streaming through her bedroom window, and Emma felt the presence of all the strong women who had shaped her life, and all the young women she was now helping to shape in turn. The circle of love and service continued, unbroken and ever-expanding, connecting past to present to future in ways that transcended any individual story.